So yeah, hi everyone. In our last video, we completed our get part. Okay, so in this part, what we will do, we will write another use cases to create a new project in our database. So for that, what we will do, we will start writing use cases at our domain layer. So let's define the file. Let's create a new file called create project use cases.js. Okay. So now here, what we will do, we will define our first use case and second use case, that is create project use case. Okay. Now let's define a constructor for our class. This will also take project repository similarly like in this our scenario. So we will copy the same code from here. In our constructor we need a project repository. Okay, so in our use cases we should also have one method. We could also have one method to execute that particular use case, like in our get all project use case. So let's define one more method over here to that is execute. That would be asynchronous method, and at the end what we will do, we will export this module.exports and give the name. It's like that. Okay, so now what we have to do, we have to in this use case we have to create a new project. So for that there are a requirement of entities over here. So what the entities we need over here in by creating a project, that would be project. So we need a project entity to perform this action, create project use case. We could not perform this action without project entity. So let's import this, add this. What we will do, we will add our project entity over here at the top and import it like this. What we have to do, we have to, where the entities is, this is at a domain layer, and we will import entities, and the particular entities is project. Okay, in our execute method, what the parameter which are required, that would be id. Let's say that is the id, and then title, let's say description, image url, and project url, and we have another field that would be project category. Okay, so now here what we will do, we will create a new project entity. Let's name it constant. Let's give us a constant, and we will name the variable as a new project and create an object of that entity. And then inside our project entity we will give the value which we getting from over there here, like id, and we have to use a new keyword to create an instance of that object. And the second parameter is title. Over you can see in our project entities we have a 5 things in our project constructor: id, title, description, image url, project category. So we have this use case, and we have this constructor. In constructor we inquired project repository, and then we have a method that is execute. Okay, here we will call our repository, and in execute there are some parameters which are required: id, title, description, and here we are creating a object of our entity project, and we'll add all the data over here which we will get from our controller: image url, project url, and project category. Fine. Now we have a new entities of our project. So now what we can do, we can call our data repository part here. What the repository, this repository, we will call it here, and the method, let's say that is create project. We need to define this, and this will accept a parameter that would be into our project entity. So we will pass over this newly created entity. So now the next step, what would be the next step would be we have to create a new method in our repository, that is create project. So once we call this, we have to also return this method. Okay, so now let's come on where we have to on our repository file, project repository, and here we will define another asynchronous method that would be create project, which we are using over in our side our use cases, that is create project. See, this is, we have to declare this. Now what we have to do, we have to define our query to create that, and after we are good to use that. So inside our create project use this use case, and we know that this is required entity that would be a project entity, because we have to create a new project. So what we have to do next, we have to make a query. This would be our query, and we have to call our method from our data source. This would be a asynchronous method, so we have to add await keyword over there. And if you come over here, there we have another method to execute modification query. Okay, so we will use this because we are adding a new project over there. So here what we will do, we will pass our query, which we will write, and the parameters. Fine. These two things we need to pass. Now we do not have a parameter, so we will do declare over here. So for query, what we have to do, we have this project entity, so we will create a new variable object like this, and we will assign our project over there and give all the fields: title, description, whatever which we have inside our this entity, project entity. If you come over here, project, let's define one by one project description. No, sorry, the next one was description, and after that we have image url, and then we have project URL, and then we have project category. Okay, these are the URL which we have. These are the field which we have: title, description, image, URL, ID, and also we have ID. We have to also define the ID field. Okay, we also have this ID. So we have 6 field now. Okay, and we are doing some mistake over here. Let's see what they are. Now we have to add parameters. So let's define a variable called params, and these parameters we will get it from the object which we created here. So let's add it one by one. You can directly copy all the fields from and paste it here. Okay, so now we can define our query over here. Our query would be, we have to insert a new project in our projects table. So what the query would be, for query would be insert, what we have to insert, and where we have to insert into projects table. Okay, and give all the keys which we have to insert. These are all the keys. We will copy it over from there. This is the query, and then we have to provide values of those. Okay, this is, we have to use a, do not have to use a curly braces. Okay, then we have to provide the values, and the values we have to provide like this. There are 6 parameters, then we have to add 6 question mark. This is the basic syntax to add a new object over there. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Fine. So now let's try to rerun our, okay, let's keep it and rerun one more time. Fine, and we have our app.js file. Okay, let's come over here. Okay, we have to do one more thing, that we did not define our routes, so we need to define that also. We have as of now the get route only, so let's define our another route, that would be a post method, and there we have to create a new project. So that is router.post, and the endpoint would be create. Okay, and the project and rest of the thing, what we have to change, we have to call our second use case, that is create project, which we define inside our controller create project. We can use over from there. Fine, create project, and we have to do one more changes, is that inside our app.js we have only this use case, get all project use case. We have to also add our another use case, that is create project. So firstly what we have to do, we have to import that use file over here. So that is create project. Okay. Create project use case, and let's rename it to use case slash create project use case. Okay, now let's create an instance of that object, that is create project use case, and this will take fine. Now we can pass inside our controller the another use case, that is create project use case. And in our controller, in constructor, what we have to do, we have to also pass this another variable, that is our create project use case, so that we can pass over the next part of our application, like we can call inside our data repository part. So let's try to add one more controller method over here, that is responsible for creating a new project inside our application. So let's rename it to create project. Okay, this will take a request and response. In this scenario we need also a request parameter, because we have to create a new project. Okay, so what we will do, we will create an object, that is project category. Let's say we have all the, over here we will pass the body from our request, and assign, where we have our repository part, here we will copy all these fields and paste over the here. So the next thing what we have to do, the next thing we can do, we can add some basic validation, like though some fields cannot be empty. If this field is empty and you are trying to hit up a create method, then you will get an error, like you can be, your title could not be empty, your description could not be empty like that. So let's do that. Copy it here and add a negation mark over each parameter which you want that could not be null. If we added all the condition over here, fine, and added with or, and remove the comma from over here. Okay. Once you have done, if this condition is not satisfied, then in that scenario what we will do, we will simply return a response with error. with response with status code, we can say as of now 400, and we'll parse a JSON with error field. Okay, and in error we will say that missing required field, so that user can know that they have to fill this field, otherwise they can't be proceed further. Okay, and if this condition is satisfied, then we will proceed further. Firstly, what we will do, we will, let's copy this method, or we can simply delete it, the try part. Here what we have to do, we have to filter our project ID. We create a new variable called project ID here. Okay, and or what we can do, see, in our create project we have our request.body and we pass there here. Okay, and we are checking out all the variable. If this condition is not satisfied, okay, we have, okay, in our try part, let's try to call our repository method, that is, let's this dot create project use case. What the method is there, if you see, we have this use case method over here. Okay, so we will use this and call our execute method. Execute method required what, if you come over here, this needed 6 variable, because we need to pass from our project controller. So what we will do, if you see project routes, let's close this. Firstly we need to pass the ID, and then if you see here, let's copy from over here, you come here and paste it here. We have a ID, we have title, then description, then image URL, and then project URL, then project category. Okay, so now what we can do next, and we pass this, and we will add await keyword here because this is in future method, and will store result in variable, let's say that is project ID return. Okay, and in response what we will do, we will return a response with the status code 200 or 201, whatever you want. With JSON, in JSON what we will return, an object, we will return ID with our project ID. And if you are getting an error, then we will simply return our common error, which we return inside our get method. So that's it. Okay, let's review one more time our code. Inside create project, we pass our request body. Okay, we initialize the project. Then we are checking the basic validation that this field could not be empty. If this is missing, then we are throwing an error that missing field required field. If everything is fine over here, then what we will do, we will add a try catch block. In try block, what we are doing, we are calling this use cases method, create project use case. Okay, and there we pass all the parameters which are required to execute that method. And once this is executed, then we returning status code 200 with ID, whatever the return. Okay, so let's now come on our project routes part. In project routes part, we have post create method, create project. We calling our create project this method from our controller. And now let's see, inside our app.js file, we added our create project use case at the top, and now we have create an instance of our create project use case called the repository, and in controller we have our get all project and create project use cases. Okay, so now let's try to a post method inside our post method. Let's try to add a simply create and see what we're getting. It's saying that missing required field, so we have to add a missing required field which are required to perform this action. So we have to add all the fields which are required. Okay, let's see what the field we have to add. If you come over our project controller, we have a title. Okay, let's copy from here. Okay. And in our parameters, okay, we have a body. Inside body, we can pass a raw data. Let's change to text to JSON and add this one. Okay, what we can do, simply we have a get. Okay, let's firstly we will get it, and we will simply copy paste the object we will get in our response. Okay, let's see what we will do. We will simply copy this response and we'll change to post, and let's make it to create. And in our body, we will simply edit this, and we'll change this to different ID, and let's do a different title, and the description is something like this. Add some project URL, this and this, and let's try to hit this. We are getting internal server error. This dot project usage execute is not a function, so we need to debug this. Okay, come over your use cases. What the error was? Internal server error, type error. This dot create project use case dot execute is not a function. Okay, we are getting an error that project is not a constructor. Okay, if you come over here, project controller, let's see inside project. Okay, you can see that we misspell it here, and we also need to export our module, so we'll use module dot exports and we'll give the name that it's project. Okay, let's try to rerun one more time, and this time pull dot execute not a function. Okay, see, come on over here project repository, and here we do not. Okay, let's add a variable, const variable, where we will store the result whatever we will get in once we call this. Okay, so let's add in inside our project id. Let's give a variable called project id. Okay, wait, we are here, or we can rename to result also, like in our previous. And let's make it an object, and simply we will return the result. Okay, so let's see what we have inside our controller now. Inside our controller we are extracting the body, then we are perform some basic validation, then inside the try catch block we are calling our use cases method and passing all the required fields. If this is true, then we are returning our response, and if we are getting an error, then we are throwing error with 500 status code. Let's try to rerun one more time. We are getting an error, pulled up execute is not a function. Okay, you can see that we have misspelled it here. We have to add e also. Pulled out execute, the method is execute. Okay, so now try to rerun one more time. I hope this time it's worked. So now we are getting this response. So we successfully insert affected rows. You can see one means we are successfully enter this object inside our database. We can verify. How we can verify? We will copy this and open inside our new tab, and inside of create we will use a get and try to hit and find what the title was this, and id is 29. Let's search is if this is there or not. You can see we successfully added. Fine. So in next part what we will do, we will see how we can delete existing project from our database and how we can update some project over there. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the upcoming part we will continue that thing. Okay, thanks.